Okay, hello and welcome to the MSDynamicsWorld.com CRM webcast series. I'm Jason Gumpert, and joining us for today's event is Gretchen Opferkew, the Director of Education at PowerObjects, a Dynamics CRM consultancy based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I should add, Gretchen is also a newly awarded Dynamics CRM MVP, and well-deserved, I would say. Gretchen's a frequent writer and presenter in the Dynamics community, and this is actually her third session for us here at MS Dynamics World. We're really glad to have her back, and I would invite you to go and seek out her past sessions that are on demand. So as we get started today, I just want to add that we do invite you to add your feedback and ask questions during the event. And there are a few ways for you to do this. First, you can use the Q&A tab and the chat tab that you see to the right of the slides here, and those will be available here in the platform. And we also invite you to tweet your thoughts and questions. We'll be using the hashtag MSDWCRM to share what we're learning and take your questions as well. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome Gretchen.
Well, thanks very much, Jason. I am going to be sharing my desktop here. I will share the right monitor, though, here and get started. So I just want to welcome everybody. Slide looking good, Jason?
Yes, slide's looking good.
Yes. All right, great. I just want to welcome everybody from both people based in the U.S. as well as the global audience that participates in these types of webinars, and we're certainly looking forward to a good discussion on who owns CRM in your organization. And one of the reasons I was prompted to suggest doing this session is this is one of the most common questions that I get from customers when I'm out working with customers, and they'll ask me from your experience with other organizations, who owns CRM in the organization? And so in this session, I'm hoping that you will find out some of those things and be able to really make a plan for your organization. First of all, I just want to introduce myself a little bit. I work for PowerObjects. We are the Microsoft Dynamics CRM 2013 Partner of the Year. This is our second year in a row. We do Microsoft Dynamics CRM, and that's all we do. So we do implementation services. We do technical support for CRM. We do education, and we also have 18 add-ons that we offer in the marketplace. And my area is education. I'm the Director of Education, so I manage our customer community, our online trainings, our workshops, boot camps, and our annual conference coming up in October. The material for this session is actually part of a 2-day user adoption workshop that I conduct. So we've got one coming up in July and also in October of 2013. So if this topic is of really key interest to you, definitely check out the 2-day option, which is an in-person workshop in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So my goals for today, as I mentioned, is I want you to have an opportunity to analyze the ownership of CRM within your organization, realizing that it's not a one-dimensional problem, that you maybe need to address ownership of certain parts of CRM across your organization. And also, I want you to be able to make a plan for how your organization is going to support and own CRM. So I actually don't care if you stop listening to me for a while and start thinking about your organization, start taking notes. That's really my goal, is to give you some fodder for your thought processes around this in your organization. And every organization is going to be unique. The agenda for this is I'm going to walk through some case studies on what I've seen in other organizations, how they handle the ownership of CRM, some of the positives of that, some of the trade-offs that they have, some of the negatives of that. Then we're going to break it down and look at the specific areas of ownership. We'll talk about the considerations for each individual organization. How is your organization unique? And then at the end, we will circle back around to making a plan for your organization. The assumption we're making here in this presentation is that ownership is important, that somebody needs to own CRM in your organization, and we want to make sure that you avoid confusion, avoid finger pointing, and especially when it comes to user adoption. And we want to make sure that users know who to go to with questions, places to find information, and how the system is going to be maintained going forward. So organizations that have a lack of ownership, they really struggle with system changes being done that aren't approved by others in the organization. They struggle with ensuring that CRM keeps up to date, that the data quality stays quality, and that the processes that the users are doing continue to be supported by the CRM system. So we want to make sure all of those happen by designating people who own those things. So the first thing I'm going to have Jason do here is run a poll. I'd like to just get a feel for the people on this webinar. What is the state of your ownership in your organization? A, no one owns CRM right now. B, too many people own CRM. C, we could use some clarity in the roles. D, we're doing pretty good. Or E, we're not sure. So if you could just answer that question, and we will.
And yeah, some people are filling this in, so I assume that people are able to see it pretty easily. If you're not sure where to look for the polling, you may need to enable the polling window from the top of your screen there. But it looks like we have all the answers we're going to get. So let me close this out and share the results.
All right. So we do actually have a significant portion of the group, it looks like, who either no one owns CRM or they're looking for clarity. So those of you who are here that said we are not sure, we can help with that. And if you're doing pretty good, this will help make sure that you're on the right track. So that's great. All right, so let's get started with the case studies. Now, the case studies that I'm going to present here, I'm not going to name specific names of companies, but I'm going to present 3 basic structures of companies that I have seen. I've worked with over 200 implementations and kind of narrowed it down to 3. Obviously, there are, different unique scenarios out there, but these are the 3 different structures that I've generally seen in organizations and how they own and support CRM. So the first one is that business takes the primary ownership of CRM. So in a small company, you might have something like a sales manager or a business manager who is responsible for people, and someone that reports to that business manager becomes the CRM owner, or they become sometimes what we call a CRM champion. They may do as little as doing advanced finds, reports, helping with data entry, or they may actually get to the configuration and that sort of thing. A lot of it depends on whether there's an internal IT or an external IT with a small company, and if they have someone available who can pick up where the CRM champion leaves off in terms of their technical ability. So the CRM champion is usually in a small company identifying the business needs and keeping track of the changes that need to be done, doing the training, but they may also be doing some of the extending of the application and doing some of the configuration depending on their skill set. So what I've seen really work with this is that the team members actually have someone they can go to, very close to them, somebody who knows what they do, somebody who's very aware of what their processes are. And that has really worked. Some of the things that I've seen that have not worked with this model is sometimes the CRM champion doesn't have the authority to really drive usage. So the manager, if the manager is not a strong person, the CRM champion cannot drive the usage and the user adoption alone by themselves typically. Even if they really realize the value of this system, it's often difficult for them to convey that to the team with authority. So those are some issues with this model, but this is very common in a smaller company leveraging internal or external IT. The second model I'm going to show you, before I do that, I just want to point out that if you work with a Microsoft partner, you might be having actually the partner play that CRM champion role. So some organizations will actually outsource that to their partner. The next model is a similar model, but it's in a larger organization. And this is where you have a CRM owner who is part of the business leadership, but they are possibly across multiple teams or across multiple managers. So this is more of a strategic role, more of a process owner role, and then this person would be sort of the liaison to IT. I've seen this actually work where the CRM owner comes out of the business and has experience in the business, possibly doing various roles. I've worked with one organization where the person in this role had been with the company for 30 years, and they actually worked with teams, you know, across the organization, pretty much helped to build the company, so they had a huge in-depth knowledge of the processes in the company. I've seen this particular structure break down when the CRM owner does not have the IT support that they need. So they may have a lot of dreams of what they want the application to do, but perhaps the leadership has not designated the resources from IT to help execute that or have the support for the technical aspects. So if there's integrations or if there's custom things that need to be built, I've seen a lot of organizations where IT is just way too busy, has too much on their plate in order to support the CRM owner. So those are some of the positives and negatives of this model. So the third model that I've seen in organizations is where IT owns CRM. And you'll notice in this model that there's no one in the business in this picture other than team A, team B, team C. And what this model is the BAs spend a lot of time working with the teams and keeping track of all of the requirements and working with the business stakeholders here. But the IT team is actually the one managing all of the priorities and all of the enhancement life cycle and those types of things. One organization in particular I worked with used the Scrum methodology, so everything was on a iterative, agile approach to getting things done using sprints, and that worked very well for them. So I think this model works really well. I've seen I've seen that, but things that are issues in this is it is a lot of resources. So the organization that uses this model basically decides that CRM is a critical application for the organization. It's strategic. Our entire organization is going to run on this, so we are going to designate a team of people who are going to support this application. And so I think that's probably a dream for many of you on this call, but maybe not quite yet sanctioned by the leadership at your organization. So maybe this will give you some ideas of how to do that. Mentioning the partner again, in this type of structure, the partner might report up through IT and actually be part of the technical role. A Microsoft partner could also be part of the BA team that you have, or even leading as a project manager or program manager for the entire effort. Generally, though, I do see these types of teams as maybe starting out with a partner helping as sort of training wheels on your bike here, and then eventually becoming self-supporting over time. So that would be the goal, is for your entire team to be self-supporting. So the last model I said I would do 3 models. This is another model that I've seen work within an organization, is that the IT team really designates one BA or multiple teams of BAs to basically be a liaison between IT and the business. And that BA may actually have a dotted line to the business leader, responsible to business leaders for sort of project management and business analysis across the organization. I think this is a really good model in a medium-sized organization where maybe having 3 or 4 people from IT in a single meeting about CRM every week is maybe too many resources. But if this one person who is designated from IT, if that's their primary role to work with CRM, they can actually pull out the resources or get things onto the IT team's schedule that need to be done for CRM. So the only problems I've seen with this is that when the IT BA has too much to do, they don't have enough bandwidth for CRM, so maybe CRM's been thrown on their plate as one of the many things that they do. And in an organization where you've got multiple teams using CRM, CRM is a critical application and needs a significant focus, probably at least 50% of time for that BA. So I worked with organizations where they were assigned a BA from IT, but the BA, wasn't sometimes there at meetings and just couldn't carry the load. So those are things that you're going to want to think about if this is a model that you're thinking about for your organization, is the amount of time that person can designate. But with this model, it actually works really well for the stakeholders from each team to get together periodically, whether it be every other week or once a month, and review all of the requests for enhancements and things like that need to be done for CRM and allocating IT resources to those. So those are the 3 models that I have to share with you. I would just like to find out from the group listening here, what is the involvement of leadership in your organization in terms of designating resources and assigning ownership to teams? If you could respond to this poll and just let me know, is executive leadership really designating ownership over CRM, or are teams that are using CRM petitioning for resources, or is leadership not really involved, or other not sure? If you could respond to that, that would be great.
Okay, I'm going to close out the poll in another 5 seconds or so. And just a few more seconds and it should come up. Gretchen, are you able to see the results?
It says the poll has ended, but I don't quite see the results yet.
Okay, I can read them off here.
Read them off, yeah.
Let's see. I'll try again to make them visible. But executive leadership assigning ownership is the top choice at 39%.
Awesome.
Next is leadership is not very involved at 18%.
Okay.
Third is B, teams petition leadership for CRM resources at 16%, so close to it, and then 4% are other or not sure.
Okay.
And then the rest are just didn't answer.
I'm so happy to hear the 39% executive leadership assigns ownership, because I think that that is a critical success factor for leadership to either, assign ownership or at least have a listening ear to allocate resources to CRM or adequate resources to CRM. So that's great. Okay, next we are actually going to break this down and actually go through the different areas of ownership. And so hopefully I can actually add some value here to things that you perhaps haven't thought about in terms of who owns CRM. So the first one, really basic, starting at the ground level, I know. Who owns the customer relationship? So this is something that you might want to think about in your organization in terms of ownership over the CRM record. Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is it service? Is it another team at your organization? Who owns that customer data, all the interactions and the business results? And the reason why I bring this up is because it is important to just remember that. It's important to remember that typically the business does own this portion. So sometimes the business does want to push off onto IT and say, you own all of CRM, and our data's not clean, or our data's a mess, and the business really needs to allocate resources to to addressing those issues, if there are any issues there, or keeping things in line. The next level, sort of peel the onion, is who owns the business processes in your organization. So is there a manager who owns the business process? Is there a business analyst, or is there a CRM champion in your organization that owns the business process? Again, this is an area where because CRM is a technology, many organizations struggle to determine if IT or the technical people in your organization should own this, rather than designating someone on the business side to own this. So I think it's really great when you can identify people on the business side who are owning these things. Another thing to think about with who owns the business processes is who owns the training. Because training should be process-focused, not technology-focused. So oftentimes the person who owns the business processes or the team that owns the business processes also allocates resources for training or is designated to do the training. We don't want to have IT or very technical people showing people a very boring, here's how you enter a screen and here's how you fill out a field training. We want somebody who says, here's how you get the results that your manager wants from you. So definitely want to think about aligning those in your organization. The next one is data. Who owns the data? So this is where it almost becomes clear that there is a technical aspect to data and that there is a business aspect to data. So data integrations, data imports, those things are often handled by IT and not obviously by the business because they're very technical in nature. However, this data quality is definitely a gray area. I would argue that the data quality is a business problem and that the business should work on figuring out how to keep the data clean and getting the right technologies in place, or asking for the right technologies to do that, if it be some custom scripts or things that automatically deactivate records, proper deactivating and bulk deleting of records that are outdated. Those types of things should probably be at least led by the business in many organizations. The reality is, when it comes to supporting CRM, one of the main things besides data is configuration and enhancements. So the reason that you purchased Microsoft Dynamics CRM is because it's a very flexible solution. So you can configure it and make the changes to Microsoft Dynamics CRM to support your business processes. But the truth of the matter is that modeling business processes in a relational database is a technical skill set. So I've worked with many business-focused people who have a technical understanding or have a understanding of relational databases, but I've also worked with many business people who do not. So you will want to sort of come up against this reality that modeling business processes in a database is a technical skill set, and you probably, you may be looking for technical assistance. So that's where we ask the question, who owns the configuration? Who analyzes requests and pushes back on the users? Who can actually configure the system using a good data model? So unfortunately, one of the types of projects that we do here at PowerObjects is what we call a rescue project. That's coming in and rescuing a CRM system that has been built with a terrible data model. And we want to make sure that the person who's modifying the CRM system understands relational databases and can model the data correctly. So we also want to look at who's going to maintain the development, test, QA environments. Some organizations have a separate training environment in addition to production. Most organizations, after they go live, are going to have at least two environments, the development and production environments, and then depending on the size of your organization, you may have the additional levels in there of test and training. So who is going to own that? Who is going to do the configuration? Who is going to move the changes through the environment? And who is going to communicate out to the business when changes are made? Who is going to provide training on enhancements and those types of things? So these are things that you want to think about. My thought is that the configuration is a technical role, and typically you will need assistance from IT, although I've seen some awesome people in the business doing that as well. So this is just a picture of sort of the implementation process when you're replacing another system or implementing CRM for the first time. It's sometimes a pretty linear process, but then you move into more of an enhancement cycle, and so you are looking for somebody who is going to manage that enhancement cycle. I find that this is one of the things that many organizations don't necessarily think about, and so they don't, after they go live with CRM, they may have one cycle of enhancements, but they don't designate resources for that sort of ongoing enhancement cycle. Is there an enhancement cycle because there's any issues with CRM? Not necessarily. there's an enhancement cycle because your business is growing and changing. Your organizational processes are changing, and CRM needs to keep up with those. And otherwise, you'll find yourself waking up a year and a half later and nobody's using CRM because 50% of it doesn't match what they do now. So that's what you want to put into place, is an enhancement cycle, and have somebody who owns that. So lastly, this is going to be a sensitive subject for some of you, but who owns reporting or advanced reporting? So many organizations will establish sort of a CRM champion on each team if it's a large organization, or just the team if you're a smaller organization, who does dashboards and reports and those types of things. But occasionally you'll come across a need for advanced reporting, a custom report that's done in SQL, perhaps something that's scheduled to be emailed to the team on a periodic basis. And so I would definitely make sure that in your plan you designate who is going to do advanced reports, what's going to be the need for advanced reporting, and how much bandwidth is that person going to spend doing reports for CRM. How are they going to handle new requests, changes to existing reports, and how long are they expected to take to deliver reports. So we've worked with quite a few organizations that this is a very big pain point for them, because they'll request a report from IT, and it will be Christmas before they get that report. So maybe they're hoping that Santa will deliver it to them. I'm not sure, but hopefully your organization can work through that and designate somebody who's responsible for that. But I think one of the more straightforward components of CRM is who owns the technology. So in many cases, if you're in CRM Online, that may not be as much of an issue. If you're on-premise, who owns the servers and infrastructure, who owns the database, who owns the workstations, who owns performance, who do the users call with technical issues. Those types of things are usually pretty clear, but those are considerations that you're going to want to make in your organization. Something that I have seen that doesn't work is making the business champions the first line of support for a technical issue. Generally, the business champions, if somebody's getting an error on their screen, if their Outlook client isn't working for some reason, it's a distraction for them to try to figure that out. So I encourage organizations to designate someone on their help desk or in the IT who is familiar with sort of the top 10 CRM issues out there, whether it be conflicts with Outlook or the browser or something like that. And that person can at least triage and do first line of support for CRM issues. So that ends the breakdown of all of the components of who owns different components of CRM. Those are things that you're going to want to think about in your organization. Now I want to talk a little bit about the considerations specifically for your organization and how you need to think about CRM. So I'm going to start with a poll on just how is IT positioned in your organization. Does IT serve the business, both the technology and the processes, or is IT only provide hardware and software, not processes? Does IT from an outside company or other? And go ahead and respond to that poll. We will analyze the results here.
Okay, we'll give it about another 10 seconds here. It looks like most of the answers have already come in. So I will close it out now.
Okay, great.
And let's see if we see the results. Are you seeing anything this time, Gretchen?
No, I wish it was.
Okay, no problem. Let's see. So we have the top vote getter is B. IT only provides the hardware and software. at 41%. The second place answer is A, IT serves the business, both technology and process, and then a much smaller portion on IT from an outside company or other.
Great. Great. This is great because I'd like to see the majority be A to some degree. I would say that the title of this particular session is How Healthy Teams Support CRM, and probably the healthiest organizations that I've seen are organizations where the IT department sees themselves as serving the rest of the company. So in terms of, you know, they understand that IT is part of the overhead of the company, that they are not necessarily revenue generating, and so their goal is to serve the purposes of the company, to build the company goals, to serve the and align themselves with the company goals. So that is probably the healthiest model that I've seen, is when IT really takes that. I've seen some very toxic organizations where IT actually, for some reason, gets a bee in the bonnet about, you know, their technical aptitude, and just feel like they want to sort of lord over everybody in the company that, you know, if you want our help, good luck. And I think there's been some Saturday Night Live skits and stuff about that type of attitude, but it really is toxic in an organization, especially organization that's trying to grow and meet goals. So let's talk a little bit about some positive things, some considerations for your organization. So one thing you want to consider is where you are in the implementation process and what your long-term goals are for CRM. So CRM is a long-term strategy, and so the team that you have right now supporting CRM or building CRM might need to grow as CRM grows in your organization. So we don't want to focus on just sort of a short-term, who do I need to help implement CRM? We want to focus on that long-term of who do we need to help maintain CRM. And here's the thing, how quickly do you need to scale that level of resources? So I encourage you to bring in people earlier and build them in rather than waiting for there to be so much pain around the support of CRM that you bring people in. I've seen organizations that are rolling out a pilot and then they go to roll out to a broader part of the organization, and the team that they had on the pilot was sufficient, but the team that they had when they tried to roll out was, you know, just stretched so thin. And so I encourage you to think about what types of infrastructure do we need to put in place for the expanding and the widespread, and then, of course, it becoming a critical application for your organization. So what direction are you going, and then how critical is it? At this point, I'm going to do a quick plug for a pilot. If you're in the implementation process, there's a lot of value to doing a pilot or doing a small amount of users initially. You not only refine all of your training materials and you know, capture things possibly that weren't captured in testing, but your team learns a lot through rolling out to a pilot, so it's more successful when you roll out to the broader group. Just a little plug in there, unrelated, but other considerations for your organization. Who do you know? Who do you know in your organization that has these skills? It might be time to think outside of the box. You're looking for somebody in terms of owning CRM who has a bridge of technical and business skills. You're also looking for somebody who is somewhat assertive and possibly kind of a pushy person, PM type, to be able to push back on users. I've seen one case study where I've seen where no one in IT has really a knack for working with end users. So maybe you've got someone in IT that's technical and you know, they can change a field or they can do a report, but they never really ask why, or they never sort of keep track of the business requirements for these things. So I've seen that as a point of failure when nobody's really bridging that gap, when business is going right to IT. I've also seen issues where no one in business has an aptitude for technology. So you might want to either think about hiring someone or building out technical aptitude in people that you see on the team to be able to possibly bridge that gap. I think hiring someone is actually a worst case scenario for designating a CRM owner or CRM champion. I've worked with a lot of organizations that go out and hire somebody for the CRM champion role, and a lot of times that person, A, has a hard time because they don't know the business processes. They don't know who in the organization to go to get something done, and so they don't have the authority to really drive the CRM initiatives. So realizing that hiring someone is probably going to delay your project, hiring somebody that that has the skills. Case study 3, I have actually seen super successful, I mentioned this earlier, is a person who comes out of the business, and I've seen organizations, I'm thinking of another organization where the person was a salesperson for years and then rose up and took the ownership over replacing the CRM system that they were using. I've seen another organization that actually hired somebody they had in mind for CRM, but they put them into sales first, and this person did 6 months of sales work before they then started working on the CRM project. And that gave them a lot more clout with the salespeople, sort of I've walked in your shoes, and of course gave them all the knowledge of the business process and those types of things. So those are some different models that you might think of if you're looking for who can own CRM from a bridge from business to technology perspective. And then, of course, you want to consider your teams, the size of your teams, the location. Are you going to be working across cultures? Do the teams have a difference in process? Do the teams have an ability to collaborate? Do the teams have where are they at in their progress of implementation and their knowledge of CRM? So you want to consider those things in terms of how you structure the ownership of CRM. If you need someone to be bridging across teams, bridging across cultures, who would be the best people or person to do that, or would they bring together a group of stakeholders that all have something to contribute to the ownership of the CRM system. And you want to consider your culture, your company culture. Does your culture have the freedom to share information between departments, or do you have a competitive culture? Are those things that you need to bring up to leadership, that there are risks to the CRM because people don't share information? Also budgets. I know I'm sitting here talking about hiring people, and many of you are probably thinking, well, that's nice. She doesn't have any idea about budgets, does she? So, of course, that is definitely a consideration. Which team bears the expense? Is it the business, or is it the IT team, or another team that allocates resources to CRM? Those are things that you'll want to consider in your organization. Hopefully from this particular group of considerations, you will take away that someone has to serve others in your organization. So whether it be an IT business analyst or the IT team altogether, whether it be someone who's designated as a CRM process owner that maybe serves other teams or across multiple teams, or someone who is just designated as a CRM champion and they serve a single team. We really need to look at it as serving the organization's goals and growth needs. And so if you can frame it up that way in the roles that you're designating, there's a lot of honor in that to be the one who's serving others in the organization. So let's get to the most exciting part here. Let's get to making a plan for your organization. And I just want to start out with making a plan by actually asking a question and getting your feedback. I'm going to have you submit your comments via chat to all panelists on this topic. So if you are working on with a global team, what are some of the complexities that you have found implementing CRM across cultures in terms of ownership and communication and those types of things? If you want to, or if you have a comment on that, either now or as I'm going through this next section, definitely submit your comments to the all panelists via the chat, and maybe list some of the complexities that you have encountered working across cultures. And I want to bring this up because we do have a global audience with the MS Dynamics world, quite a few people listening from around the world who would like to be able to think about this thing. So let's contribute our ideas via the chat. And I will go through the section, and at the end of this section, we will read through and take the ideas that people have submitted. So what I recommend you do is build kind of a matrix of who owns these different components of CRM in your organization. This is kind of a simple matrix. For the larger organizations are probably going to have a more detailed matrix. Smaller organizations might have a very small matrix, so this is sort of a hybrid of that. But you will want to build a matrix basically saying, you know, for example, who owns the workstations, who owns local machines, device issues, whether it be tablets or phones or laptops, errors related to the web browser, Outlook, or other local applications conflicting. I put in here sort of the most common. I mentioned earlier that the most common with a medium to large size business is the IT help desk receives training on assisting with the most common issues. And then they're able to at least to be first line of support on those common issues with CRM. And so you'll want to designate, of course, what your plan is. If it's an outside IT firm, if it's a partner that you're leaning on for this function, or whether you have a single individual in your IT department, or whether you actually have a help desk that can take those questions, you'll want to make that plan. Same with server performance, infrastructure, all of that stuff. Very common that it's the IT infrastructure team. Could be an outside team. But you may want to put some parameters around that. The data integrations, so nice that you built a data integration. Who's going to ensure that the data integration continues to work properly, makes enhancements to the integration, supports the integration and performance. So the most common I've seen is that there is an IT database administrator who's responsible for that. But there may be a different internal or external owner of that. And I mentioned this here, there may be a difference in which application you're integrating with, maybe a separate owner for each one or an owner for all of them. Simple business processes, requirements and design, you know, initial triage of ongoing enhancements. So there might be a CRM administrator designated from IT. That's probably one of the most common. Usually a business analyst or a project manager leads a group of business representatives or stakeholders from each team and owns that. On a smaller organization, like I mentioned, it might be just a CRM champion designated. And then training and coaching, training for new employees, business managers. Oftentimes, I think one of the most successful things that I've seen is actually the business managers. So if you look at a sales team as an example, and let's just say that you have a sales team of 500 people, and you have 25 sales managers managing those people, or regional managers and those types of things. The most successful I've seen is when those business managers actually become the CRM champions for their teams. So they are the ones who get the detailed training. They're the ones who establish the, they establish what they want from their teams, and they actually show their teams how it's done. Maybe they want to designate, a sales administrator or something like that to help facilitate that and help do the training, but they take ownership of that, and that is one of the most successful models I've seen. So go ahead and fill in your plan for who's going to own the training and coaching and the ongoing training of new employees. I've also seen organizations that have a training department, so they create standard training materials, and that training department does all the onboarding. So let's go ahead and take some of the answers to the complexities of a global team and working with a global team. So I am actually going to stop sharing here and get to the chat window, or maybe I don't have to stop sharing. And let's see here.
If you hover near the top of your screen, you should be able to get to it.
Yep, I can see that. So we've got a few comments here. One person writes, we want all groups to use the same form for consistency, but Korea uses last name before first name as opposed to other cultures who address contacts with first name, last name. Interesting. So any suggestions on how to meet in the middle? Yeah, out of the box CRM actually has a way that you can switch how the name is stored, whether it's last name first or first name last, but I can understand if you're all working in the same application that it would be difficult. You might consider actually doing views that are different. If you had a view that was for Korea and they had last name first, first name last, and then that they could set that as sort of their default view. With 2011, you can do that, is set a view as your default view. So that might be one way to overcome that. But that is a really good point, bringing that up. The next person says limited support from frontline managers. So some understand and support the goals, some disagree and allow associates to opt out. And that is a really interesting point, too, that I've heard before with global teams. And actually, I think global teams, in addition to large teams, have that same issue where some managers do not hold their users accountable to doing some of the company processes. And so there's a lot of suggestions that you could actually have for that. You could actually do, you could actually add some competition in there, add some visibility across teams to show adherence. There could be carrots and sticks involved with, adherence to processes. So there's a lot of things that you could try to do to align those managers in addition to giving them extra attention and making sure that they are heard in the organization. We have another comment here that there's Scott Jackson says he's at British Land PLC in London. They don't have international coverage, but they have cultural differences between salespeople and accountants, as they are like chalk and cheese. I was going to point out, actually, when I showed the different teams, I had a screenshot. I'll actually flip back to it a little bit back here. I don't know if you noticed that I made the accountants look really serious in my picture. Yeah, here we go. Sales and marketing, they look all fun and everything. Accounting. So that's definitely a challenge across teams, and I would be curious as to, you know, in terms of CRM ownership, how is accounting getting involved in that? And then a last comment here from another person still trying to implement a global ERP on SAP. CRM still seems to be a low priority for global standardization. So still thinking about how CRM would be owned globally there. So, all right. Yes, Scott just commented that's his accounting team. Looks just like that. All right. So now I think we will actually open it up for questions. We have just a couple more minutes on the clock here before the end of this session. So if there are any questions, feel free to go ahead and type those into the chat to the panelists. Otherwise, if there aren't any, I will, we can go ahead and end this. We'll just wait here a couple seconds if there are any more questions before we adjourn.
Gretchen, we do have a question that have come in. Are you able to see those in the Q&A?
Oh,
box?
Actually, I don't. I'm still looking at the chat. So let me look at the Q&A here.
If you want, I can read them off to you while you're getting set up, or if you could see
Sure,
them,
I can actually see them here.
Okay.
Oh, did I not mention BA stands for Business Analyst? Somebody asked, what does BA stand for, Business Analyst? The next one is, what do you distinguish between, when do you distinguish between the owner, the IT team versus the business team? I'm not quite sure I understand that question, so if you could maybe post it again, maybe I could help answer that. Interesting. Somebody mentioned, the next person mentioned, isn't marketing department usually the owner of the CRM data? That is a very, very good question. I would say that about 90% of the implementations I do for standard sales and marketing, marketing isn't even in the room. Oftentimes, organizations are not even thinking about including marketing. 100% of the implementations that I've been involved with, I would love it if marketing was in the room. I would love it if marketing owned the data. I would love it if marketing was seen as part of the sales strategy in that way. I think that's absolutely a huge success factor, but the reality on the street is that oftentimes organizations think about marketing as sort of this off to the side, do your own thing, part of the initiatives, which is really too bad. Another comment is cross-cultural relationships, trek on thin ice. The challenge is which country owns the pants, so that's, or wears the pants, which country is responsible for the CRM system. So that's definitely a challenge as well to overcome, especially if your IT team is in a different country from your leadership and those types of things. just looking down here, we got a lot more questions. I'll probably take one more question before we adjourn here at noon Central Time, my time. Do you make a difference on ownership between the selection phase, deployment phase, and maintenance and evolution phase? I can definitely see that as you roll out to the business, that the business would take more and more ownership. But and I do see that in organizations, but I don't think it should change. I think that the most successful approach is to designate your business process owners at the beginning of the implementation, have them have ownership all the way through the deployment process and on an ongoing basis. And that's what I've seen most successful, is that the business process owner that's been working in the business. So that's great questions. Appreciate all the questions. I think we will end here on the hour, but definitely check out the other MS Dynamics World events coming up. I can turn it back over to you, Jason, if you have anything you want to mention.
Yeah, I think we can close it out here. Thank you so much, Gretchen. I want to mention to the audience, if you have a moment, please fill out our 3-question attendee survey afterwards. You should see in a pop-up when you close out of the session today. We really appreciate your feedback. I know our speakers always do as well. Just to follow up on a point that Gretchen made about today's audience and being a topic that dealt with global issues, we did have attendees register from 15 different countries, everywhere from the U.S. To the United Arab Emirates, to Tanzania, Australia, Germany, Turkey, and quite a few others. So we really appreciate you all attending today, and thanks to you, Gretchen, for such a great presentation.
Great.
We are recording today's session. We'll send out an alert when that is available to all of you. And thanks again for attending. And please do be on the lookout for upcoming sessions in our CRM webcast series. So thanks a lot, and have a great day.
All right. Thank you.